He was walking, not taking the subway. He headed east on 42nd Street. He didn't check to see if anyone was following him. I hung back, employing basic street surveillance tactic 101, still wanting that drink. So naturally he walks into a bar, and not just any bar, one of my favorite old haunts, the McCann's on 43rd Street, just off Grand Central Station. The one that has lunchtime lingerie shows and great greasy death burgers. He joined another guy, a little stocky spick like himself. They clapped hands in a brotherly handshake and ordered beers they weren't very interested in. I could watch them easily from the crowded bar. I was only about 15 feet away, but the loud music and the television, bar, and restaurant noise completely drowned out whatever it was they were saying. They weren't there for an early lunch, and they weren't there to get down to a Saturday's drinking like everyone else in the place. They talked for about 20 minutes. Then they took turns going into the men's room, clapped hands again, and parted company. I abandoned my seltzer without regret, and a crack at the men's room with regret, and I followed the New Brunswick guy up Vanderbilt. He still wasn't looking around and was very easy to follow. He went to the post office at Grand Central, stood in the line, and bought a lot of money orders. Small amounts, odd amounts. He wasn't reading off a list, as though he was buying them to buy specific bills. He seemed to just rattle off amounts that came to mind. The clerk looked vaguely annoyed, but completely disinterested. I thought of my friend Mark's wife, who works for the post office, and passed her time while at work by figuring out how many days, hours, and minutes are left until her retirement. I bought a pre-stamped envelope I should have been using, but wasn't going to send my own money order for $600 to Honey. Maybe someday, after I learn her name, I'll learn her address, too. I watched the guy put all his money orders unsigned into a pocket, and I followed him back to the Port Authority. He must have been a regular commuter. He didn't need to stand in line to buy a ticket, walking straight to the departure gate for his particular bus line. I decided not to watch him actually get on his bus back to New Brunswick, but I did hang around for a while outside the waiting area. Finally, I gave up and went and took a leak. God, I love the Port Authority's toilets. Great toilets. I prefer to use a locked stall rather than an open urinal. There was someone in the stall next to mine, I noticed, that was sitting quietly with many bags and a shopping cart. Someone with bare, hairy, masculine legs, but wearing a pair of run-down women's high-heeled shoes. I took the A train down to the Brooklyn-bound F at West 4th and pondered what I had seen. The New Brunswick guy, not the legs in the stall. My man had probably picked up the cash to buy the money orders from his friend at McCann's, who had gone to the crapper right before him and had probably left it hidden in there somewhere. I had probably witnessed some type of fairly small-time money laundering. I wondered if Mikey, the answer man, could help me find out who that spick had called from the payphone in Jersey. I wondered all kinds of things. I got home just in time for the Hound's show on the radio. I love the Hound. He just doesn't sound the same when you're sober, though. I dug around for some roaches and rolled them up. I sat in the window and listened to the Hound, and I watched the Staten Island ferry go by in the distance. After the Hound, I settled in for 90 minutes of TV news. I love TV news. I like watching the same channel's news programs, both the early and the late editions, so I can see the same dumb news footage twice. I like Cora Ann Mahalik, when she tries to look concerned about the latest tragedy. I like how her coworkers are always stabbing her in the back. She's not a reporter. She bakes cakes for her coworkers, and they stab her in the back like that? Tisk, tisk, I say. It's not a fair world. I couldn't sleep as usual. I considered calling Honey, but got a guilt attack every time I even thought about picking up the phone. I had taken her money. I didn't do anything but take from her, and she definitely didn't mind at all. She's too good for me. It creeps me out. Next part coming up.